Hello again. You may have seen my other video where I capped my old wooden fascia boards with new plastic fascia boarding like this. And as I said in the other video, I put the brown pins in at the correct centres for where I'm going to put my gutter fixing brackets. So on this run, they're at 750mm centres. You can see them now. I haven't knocked them fully in yet here because it's easier to peel off this protective film before you knock the heads fully in. And then I go back and knock them all the way in with my plastic hammer so that I don't mark the fascia. The next job will be putting the guttering up. So here's a sample of gutter with a bracket, and what I'm going to do is just offer this up and have a look and see how it looks. We're going to have the fall that way to the running outlet and downpipe at that end, but to start with I want to check whether I'm happy with the flow from the rain from the roof into the gutter, and I think this is a bit close. So what I've decided to do is to make some packers to go behind the fixing brackets, and I've made these out of scrap fascia board and just cut them to the same width as the gutter fixing bracket. And my colleague has just gone down the white edges with they would have white edges like this, but my colleague has just gone down and stained the edges so they're not so obvious as packers from the ground. Then what I did, I'm going to pin these packers in position for every gutter bracket, and so I wanted to pin them in the same manner. So to mark all of them, I've just put a gutter bracket on there and used my white pen to mark the place like that, and then I'm just using a pin and putting a pin in each one before I fix it in position like that. So then it's ready to go up when I work the positions out. I'll show you how I work out the final positions in a moment, because although I've got the position where every bracket is going, to get the fall on the gutter, every bracket has to be a little bit lower than the one before. And in my case, what I've decided to do here is to have a fall of 10mm for every 3-meter length of guttering, and that's where the joining brackets will be, every 3 meters. And so I will put every joining bracket 10mm lower, but I will do them to a string line just to check that they're right. Okay, so now I'm going to start working out where the gutter fixing brackets go for the height of each one. And so this will be the start at this end, and so this one wants to be as high as possible, but it's going to have a 10mm packer, a piece of plastic, the same scrap fascia board. So we're just going to put this piece behind and see how high it can go there, and then I'm going to use my white marker pen to mark the bottom of the gutter bracket there. So that's where that one, that's the height for the first one. Then I'll fix this one, and then we'll put a string line down across the bottom of the gutters to get the fall of the whole run of guttering, so that the water runs down to the outlet and the downpipe at the far end down there. Okay, so there's the white mark for the bottom of the gutter fixing bracket, but I'm actually going to fix it as close as I can to the brickwork, so it's as close as I can get it to the end of the guttering. So I'll just transfer the mark across like this, which will be good enough. So I'll hold that there to give me a good guide, and then I'll put my spacer on the top, and oops, if I can just get my hammer, and they're gonna fix that. There. So that is my first spacer fixed, and the bottom of the spacer is going to be the bottom of the gutter bracket, which I'll show you. And I've used a pin with no head so that the bracket can go over the top. So the bracket will be there, and I will drill and screw that shortly. So here's my end spacer pinned on. Now I'll be screwing the bracket on for strength, the gutter bracket on, and the position is bottom of bracket to bottom of spacer. So with my thumb, I put that on there, I push it up till the bottom of the bracket is level with the bottom of the spacer. I put my drill in, and I drill my pilot hole. Now I'll put the screw in. So here's the screw, and I'm ready to drive it in. I put it in the pilot hole. There, that's the first bracket fixed at the highest position under the tiles. Now we have to work out the fall so that the water runs downhill. So as I'm going to tie my string line to this one and pull it tight, I don't want it to twist on the single screw fixing. So I'm going to put a second screw in just to hold this first bracket secure. Okay. So they always give you plenty of fixing holes, but that's more for convenience. You don't really have to put screws in every hole. I tend to put a long screw that I know is going to take the load, and just put one in each bracket so it can realign itself to suit the gutter position in every position. But for this one, it's going to have a string line pulling on it. I want that to stop it from turning. Right, so I'm going to use a string line now to get the line of fall of the gutter to all the gutter bracket positions. So the easy way to attach a string line is to tie a little loop knot in the end of the string, then to say just slacken one of the screws, put the loop over the screw and across the bottom of the gutter, and then as we pull this across, we'll be able to strike a line for the bottom of all the brackets. Even if you don't use the chalk, you can get the line from the string. Right, so I'm going to use a string line in a minute, but before I do, I just thought I'd show you. I've got 2 overflow pipes that come right through the fascia here. So I just cut large holes with a 40mm cutter, and then that's made it easy to put the fascia plastic capping on, and then I'll just fill this with brown silicone, and you won't see it from the ground. That'll be fine, but it made it easy to put it on. Now I'm going to get the position. So this is the pin I put in at the 6 meter position, which is 2 lengths of 3 meter guttering from the start end down there, and with the scaffold I've got available to me, I can't go further than this. So this is where I'm going to work out my fall. So at the start end I fixed a first gutter bracket, and I've got my string line here. Okay, so I've attached my string line to the bracket at that end, and now I've come 6 meters down to 2 lengths of 3 meter guttering. So there'll be a joining bracket here at this position, and there's the pin that I put in to fix the fascia that also marks where the gutter bracket position is. I've measured to the bottom of the bracket at the top. That's a measurement like that, and at the start, when it was as high as it would go, the measurement was 87 millimeters. So now I want 10 millimeters fall per 3 meter length of gutter. So I need, for 2 lengths of gutter, I need this to be 20 millimeters lower. So instead of 87 millimeters, it's going to be 67 millimeters. And I've put a white mark there to show where that has to be. Now I'm going to use the string line, and I may have a problem because of these pipes, but I think I'm going to be okay. So basically, the bottom of the gutter bracket needs to be there, and the string line is going to be held tight there. So you'll see that where the bracket is here, sorry, there's going to be a bracket actually here, but if the guttering will just go over the top of the pipe. So that's lucky, that. Very lucky I am. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is, now that I've got the position for that bracket, I'm going to fix my spacer to exactly that position, like this. And that spacer or packer is where the bracket's going to go. So I can now fix that, and then I can pull the string line tight to that bracket. Right, just preparing this packer. So I realised that as this is the 6 meter position, and it's the join of 2 lengths of 3 meter guttering, instead of a single bracket spacer, this needs to be the wider spacer for the joining piece. So the main thing is I put the bottom of that where the white mark is to get the fall, and I'm eyeing it up centrally to put it in the right place. And then that now is going to be where the join of the gutter is. So we're going to fix the joining bracket now and come back to you. I'm actually using Flowplast gutter, and I thought all the bracket positions would be the same for the height of the fixings for the joining bracket as for the intermediate brackets. but you can see they're not. And worse than that, apart from the holes being different, the bottom line that I use for my string line is different as well. So I'm going to have to make an allowance of that difference. Like that, it's 10 millimeters. So the bottom of the joining bracket has got to be 10 millimeters above where my string line would say it should be. So I can do that by putting it basically 10 millimeters above the bottom of my spacer. And I changed the spacer to a wider one because it is a joining bracket and it needs a wider spacer to support the two fixings there. So that's what I've got to do now. So the bottom will be 10 millimeters up, which is about where those stainless pins are. Okay, well, I've fitted my spacer for the joining bracket, and the bottom of the spacer is the correct line for the bottom of all spacers and the other brackets, even though the joining bracket is going to be 10 mil higher than this. So I'm going to put the string line up to the bottom of the spacer, and this is the way I'm going to do it today. You have to find your own way, but this works for me. I'm just going to put it there over the top, so it's literally hanging on the spacer, and you can see that I'm going to get the position. I think the string has actually slipped off the bracket at the top, but when I put that down it'll give me the correct line. Okay, so we've now corrected the string position at the start there, and we've got the line for the bottom of all our brackets here. And so what I'm going to do, because I'm using these 10 mil packers which are cut from the old fascia, it's from scrap fascia, I'm going to put one on. Here's a pin, which means that the position 750 from the joint, from the end of the gutter, where there's going to be a bracket. So I'm going to put this packer in here just to touch the top of the string without moving it. There, and hammer that in. That's a gutter bracket position. The next one will be here where this pin is, so I just put this here just to touch the top of the string without moving it, and I put that spacer there. Then I will be coming along and fixing my gutter brackets like that, so that the bottom of the bracket is also to the string on the spacer like that, and I'll fix that with screws in a minute. Put two spacers packers up. The next one will be here. But now, as that's a joiner there, end of gutter, which is 3 meters long, these spacers, it's 750, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So the next one is going to be a joiner. So I need a bigger spacer here, which will be this one. Right, so we've now fixed all our gutter support brackets with the bottom of the bracket to the bottom of the packer that I put onto the string line. They're all fixed with screws at the top. I've got a double joining black bracket where there's going to be a join in the gutter, one there and one down the end there. So now we're going to put our gutter on. So to start with, where there's the start of the run, we've got a stop at end on the gutter here, which I've put on, just clipped it on first, and now I'm going to put this length of gutter in The scaffold's in the way, but we'll see how we get on. So that's going in there. Now, the important thing before you click it into place is to come down to the joining bracket. Because at this end there are two marks which show where the end of the gutter must be, and there's a gap in between the two for expansion, and there's enough space for it to get a good seal on the rubber gasket there. So we have to pull this through till it lines up with mark number 1, which is there. Okay, now there's the middle, there's the other mark there, that's the second mark, so that's 20mm gap for expansion. Now I'm going to snap that one there, and we just snap them all as we go back. Okay, the scaffold's just bowing the gutter a little bit. It doesn't matter, we'll be moving it tomorrow, so that's not a problem. Right, now I've got to put the next length of gutter in, which is pretty straightforward. This doesn't have a stop end. I measured the spacing out so that the end of the gutter should go to that line there on the joining bracket. Just there. Snap it in. And let me get these other ones into place. Snap, snap, snap. And guess what? This one is virtually spot on. Not exactly right, but I can adjust that slightly. Right, while we're down here, that's smartened up the job, because it was like, it did look like that down there. Old wood, old gutter, which was a bit small for this roof actually. So this flow path gutter is slightly larger than the old Osma. So it's going to do a much better job. And we've put the capping board on the fascia so it looks really smart. The next job I'm going to tackle over the weekend is this window. So look at the state of the window. So it's not too bad because it's on a sheltered side of the house. So I'm going to sand the woodwork and stain it, but to do a much better job, the window sill, the outer sill, they get a lot of weather problems. So what I'm going to do is sand that, and then I'm going to use the same Uracell capping board, and I'll cut it down to the right place, and that will go on there. A length of that will go on there. I've obviously got to trim it around the brickwork, and that'll get glued on with the crystal, and it'll do a fine job. And then it'll look like this when it's peeled off. Much better. Lovely job.